Firstly, I should point out that this isn't a horror story. There are no blood, demons, or monsters in the machine. This is simply a recollection of events that have occurred to me while playing the game Fallout New Vegas. I've had the game for a while now, the Ultimate Edition, and for the most part there are no more glitches or bugs than you'd expect for the game. I bought it firsthand from a high street store in perfect condition. It was on PlayStation 3, so obviously there were no mods. These details have been included so that you can understand that it was just a regular disc. To understand this tale, you'll need a bit of background information on Lone Wolf Radio, a location in the game. Originally, Lone Wolf Radio was going to be more than what the name had suggested. The radio station, hosted by Lone Wolf, a crazy old man, would ramble and rant inanely at random times of day, however never later than 11 p.m. The silence would continue until 3 a.m., where the station would return with Lone Wolf and a child, screaming. The Lone Wolf would announce everyone is gone, you are all alone, let it all end, and then brutally murder the child. This would start a quest, which would give the option of killing the Lone Wolf or joining forces with him to murder a child, in the process learning a perk that would let you murder even more children. Obviously, due to the horrific nature, the content was scrapped halfway through development and never included in the game. Although the Lone Wolf Radio trailer still exists, showing the Walls remnant of the insane rants, upon hearing the story of Lone Wolf Radio, I was captivated. Who at Obsidian ever thought that the station would be a good idea? Yet it wasn't just the eerie atmosphere that interested me. It was the air of mystery. Fallout games have a lot of hidden content and lore that's barely hinted at and hard to access, and I wanted a piece of it. And so for several weeks of real life, I hung around the location for a few hours per day, toying about. I tried waiting for the day at various spots, bringing certain combinations of companions, wearing specific faction armor that could link the Lone Wolf story in a desperate attempt to trigger that tiny little piece of code that could change the game. As time went on, I grew less and less interested. I had other games to play, and after a few months off of playing other games and exhausting my gaming funds, I decided to return to New Vegas to dig around some more. I quickly covered previous ground, trying all sorts of odd combinations. Nothing happened. As time progressed, I continued playing but also watched television and internet videos at the same time as playing. As I have a computer near my television, this is where I found the creepypasta community. Although I didn't think much about it at the time, I barely watched the game, mindlessly running in circles around the trailer and jumping. I didn't even know why I carried on, and was considering stopping until the events had occurred that you're about to read. It was late at night, in the game and as well as in real life. I was absently minded, walking around in circles and watching Friends on my computer. A loud bang had surprised me. After a second, I realized the sound probably didn't come from Friends, and I spun around to look at the game. The sound was too loud for a distant enemy to be shooting. There was nothing new for me, however. Every time a companion kills you, you're treated to this loud and visceral kill cam, and I assumed this is what had happened. But I had left all my companions at home. In a state between apprehension and excitement that something had finally happened, I ran from the hut, looking for my enemy. There were no red blips on the compass, so I returned to the trailer, scanning the location to see anything different. I had spent so much time around the place, I knew where every little item was meant to be. To know if anything was missing, I entered the trailer. Nothing. Outside? Nothing. Down the slope of the trailer was standing on? Nothing. I turned around back up the slope. Behind the trailer was a red smear on the ground, the structure obscuring my view. I turned the corner to look, and on the floor was the body of an old man in a suit and hat laying ragdoll on the ground, surrounded with a splatter of blood. Since New Vegas is a relatively gory title, the blood didn't surprise me. I interacted with the body and the character was called Heck Genderson. I didn't recognize the name. However, it's worth mentioning that I didn't play many of the quests in the game. On his body was the suit, a hat, and a shotgun. Could the shotgun have made the sound? I consulted my Pip-Boy. The thing was in disrepair and couldn't have fired the shot without breaking. Also, I looked at the time. It was 3:47. I was ecstatic. Finally, ages of wasting my time had paid off. Even if I wasn't too sure what I'd just witnessed, or if it meant anything at all, I waited several in-game hours until the time was nearly 3 again. I then stood watching the spot where Gunderson's body was still lying. Nothing happened. After a few moments, I consulted my Pip-Boy. 4:28. So why had nothing happened? I approached the spot and circled it a bit, never letting it out of my sight. After a while, I realized that nothing was happening and I turned my back. Ready to go for a bit of a walk, bang! I spun around, hearing this time, in much more detail, the gunshot, which had woken me really just a short time ago. As a music tech student, it's worth me pointing out that New Vegas had a gun sound quite different from the previous games. The sounds are cleaner and crisper than in the previous titles. The sound didn't fit with the others, being more dirty and distorted. And that's probably irrelevant, but it stuck out to me. Lying in wait for me this time was a corpse of Sunny's smiles, and I was distraught. I had liked Sunny. In her interview was her leather armor and varmint rifle. I moved to the other side of the trailer and waited again, this time hoping a character I liked would be spared. This time it was Pretty Sarah, a character I only knew about through my browsing on Fallout Wiki. On her was only a revolver. Why did these... What do these characters have in common? Why did they die? Was it some kind of Easter egg or just a glitch? I hoped that time would tell. I waited again, and when the executioner's shot was fired, I peered over the 3 bodies. Cheyenne, if you don't know, Cheyenne is Sunny Smiles' dog, and I wasn't aware dogs were a part of this thing too. But I shrugged my real shoulders and examined the body. What happened next was the most terrifying part of my tale to experience. In a dark room as I was, as soon as I went to interact with the body, a haunting owl echoed through the speakers, much louder than any sound in the game. It was a ghastly combination between wolf and man. I jumped up in real life, unsure of whether the sound was actually from the game, or from my garden or house. I ran downstairs and examined. Sufficiently pleased that it was actually the game, I returned to the console and repeated my experiments. Now there aren't any more details from now on, however the pattern continues. Major Daughtry, Daisy Whitman, Sergeant Andrews, Violetta, man, woman, man, dog, 3 humans, and then a dog, 3 dog. How? I didn't return to the save file after that, not out of fear or loathing, but because after so many iterations of the pattern it was nearly unplayable with so many characters missing. I played on other saves and everything seemed in order. Of course, I didn't spend as much time at Lone Wolf Radio, just to be safe. Well, that was a very reserved story. For once, it's refreshing to look at games that, game stories, creepypasta itself, that aren't as based in demons or blood or anything other than, anything really under that whole cliched banner, I guess you could say. Here we just rely on one location in the game, and also a quite popular location in the game too. Lone Wolf Radio is a location in the game south of Good Springs, consisting of just a trailer. All it has inside is radio equipment, scrap parts, and sensor modules. On the exterior wall you can read Keep Out, and on the interior left hand you can read Everything is Gone, I Am All Alone, Let It All End. This place is subject to many similar New Vegas creepypastas as well, centering around a hoax. The location is used as a quest trigger regarding child kidnapping. Initially to me this wouldn't make sense at all. Hell, even in the days of obscure PCC RPGs, with the weirdest of quests ever tossed in, some of the most fucked up stuff even, stuff like this would never, ever happen. It wouldn't fly. Do you think the option of kidnapping or killing little kids would go unscathed today, or hell even back then? No, it wouldn't. As far as hoaxes go, it's just a hoax. In fact, location designer for the game states the inspiration for it comes from when I was at the University of Oregon. Every Saturday there was a guy who stood on a corner of the campus where everyone walked by. He had a personal microphone and speaker, and would just babble on and on about one government conspiracy theory or the other. The Radio Shack was what I imagined he would have put together if he upgraded from travel speaker to pirate radio. So as far as spooking the masses go, I don't think this was initially tossed in for that. And like the location designer said, it's just a spot for the game to spice up the variety of the Mojave Wasteland. Kind of an Easter egg, if you will. As far as this creepypasta goes, it doesn't seem too bad. Sure, while it lacks some creepy elements, and overall I'd say the tone is a little less eerie, and the happenings themselves are somewhat arbitrary. They're not explained properly. And the ending is a tad too hard-hitting. You sort of just get slammed with this, well, we're done, it's pretty much the end of it, go home. I would be a liar to say that it had not captured my interest. See, the story has one thing going for it: believability. No one really knows everything about a game, and sometimes, with a world as bizarre, but yet as dazzling for numerous reasons as is Fallout's, it can be believed that weird shit like this can happen. I mean, we've seen Dunwich, we've seen even weirder events happening in vaults alone. That NPCs randomly killing themselves may be one thing that honestly I may not even bat an eye to after the hundreds of hours I've pumped into the series as a whole, just looking at the source material itself. While of course the creepypasta is short, it does have a hit of believability. You know, you sort of gradually introduce these things rather than, oh, it must have been some possessed demon in the Fallout multiverse stabbing. No, at least it doesn't go down that route. And it actually has, you know, a little unique look at Lone Wolf Radio. Usually these creepypastas, and I've looked at several, go towards the child-killing quest route and create something that I guess is grandiose in the minds of the author, but comes across as just really, really contrived when you actually read it. So it's nice to see something that sort of takes this concept and has a conservative touch. You know, it's just, it doesn't go down the obvious route. It reserves itself and writes something that is a little unique. If, you know, it might be too conservative, it may not be as hard-hitting as one would expect from a creepypasta. But overall, I have to say that while it's not great, it certainly is not bad, and I actually quite enjoyed this creepypasta. It didn't overstay its welcome, and it kind of gave Lone Wolf Radio a little extra meaning to the little meaning it had in the base game alone. So, if you enjoyed this creepypasta, let me know what you enjoyed about it in the comments below. Let me know what you would change to make it better. What would you even rate it? As always, I do ask you these questions, and let me know what you want read on the next Haunted Gaming. Of course, this is a community-run sort of show. Just send in your submissions and they will get read and everything. But that being said, this has been another episode of Haunted Gaming, and part of creepypastas. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Mudahar, and I gotta tune in to Lone Wolf Radio. I am out.